As our fine assembly concludes, Brother Grant Suter, Secretary-Treasurer of the Watchtower Society, will present the concluding comments, which we keenly anticipate. Brother Suter.
Our concluding remarks for this Divine Victory International Assembly of Jehovah's Christian Witnesses are really a description of the joy of this assembly. We've had such a fine attendance. We've had more than 1,600 of our brothers and sisters symbolize their dedication by water baptism. We've had a grand public meeting attended by more than 60,000 persons, and our hearts are full of gratitude to Jehovah God and joy for his kind provisions that we have shared in so abundantly. Our brothers elsewhere have gathered in this great international assembly and will continue to do so during the few months just ahead. We do have some reports from some of the assembly points, and it's of encouragement to us to note the attendance figures of these. Detroit had 47,000. In Miami, the Spanish Convention was 5,300, and the English Language Assembly, 29,329. Chicago, 47,490. Our brothers in Los Angeles have had two assemblies, one in the Spanish language with an attendance of 16,915, and the first of two English assemblies, 43,720. In Pittsburgh, 44,524, and Albuquerque, 5,400, and then, of course, the largest gathering to date, Houston, 60,158. So already in the United States, we have assembled to the total of 299,836 of Jehovah's Witnesses and their associates. And this great assemblage is really a celebration, a victory celebration, and the very fact of the assemblies themselves are in themselves an evidence of Jehovah's victory. We came together for spiritual food, anticipating a very rich spiritual table from which to partake, and we feel that we received it. For one thing, all of us, including the elders in our congregations, have had the opportunity of analyzing ourselves and analyzing our relationship with Jehovah, analyzing our motives in what we do, and also giving careful consideration to what we are doing with our lives. Much counsel was given to elders, much encouragement too. And this is to aid them to work together effectively as a body in each congregation with full recognition of Christ Jesus as the appointed head of the congregation. Now on this matter of elders, we've been very forcibly reminded of the fact that the Scriptures urge others to reach out for an office of overseer. Well, really, the program has presented a question in this respect. The question could be expressed as being, how many of you brothers here who have been in the truth for a number of years are striving for the office of overseer? Are you seeking first to be exemplary family heads and good publishers, and then taking on the duties of a ministerial servant and reaching out for the office of an overseer? Does love for Jehovah and the desire to serve your brothers move you to seek this responsibility? And are you reaching out for the overseer's position, not selfishly, but out of love for your brothers? So we are impressed more and more as we come to this final session with the fact that Jehovah does not want us to be dormant and idle, to stand still in his organization. When we look at the more than 100,000 people coming into the organization each year, we're impressed with the fact that they need shepherding, and that requires more overseers, and that presents an opportunity for us to comply with the Scripture counsel and encouragement and to reach out for the office of a bishop or an overseer. A question that brothers who have been in the truth for a number of years and who are not elders do well to ask themselves then is, do I want to be an overseer? And if I do, what am I doing to meet the qualifications? So if we had no more to our assembly than this matter regarding the elders and their encouragement and counsel, it would have been so worthwhile to gather here for that alone, because that will affect all of our congregations for good. The keynote speech was a thrilling one, Victory Over the World Without Armed Conflict, and we've learned that by our continuing to act in faith and to display Christ-like love in the face of the world's hatred, we will be victorious over the world. And that session was brought to a thrilling conclusion with the release of Kingdom News number 16. And that means that throughout the history of the activities of Jehovah's people, extending over the years of modern times, the 16th Kingdom News has been issued. Now here in this one, in concise form, is a message that people everywhere urgently need. The last 10 days of September the 21st to the 30th, are set aside for worldwide distribution of Kingdom News number 16, not only in the English language, but in many languages. We remember that each congregation will get a consignment of 100 copies for each publisher, according to the peak publishers that were reported for this past April, or the peak for any other month. By October the 1st, we do not want even one copy kept in our briefcase except for our one file copy that we want to keep for ourselves and for our libraries, but every other copy we want to put out before the 1st of the month. We want to give people a chance to read this message and to respond to our invitation to visit us at our Kingdom Halls, to telephone us, to have a Bible study, to obtain more literature, to get out of the devil's organization, to flee from Babylon the Great, and come into Jehovah's faithful organization now. This coming month of September should find the greatest number of witnesses ever engaged in field service in this work with Kingdom News 16. We should have 100% of the publishers reporting for September, and it should be a peak. Maybe during the course of the distribution of Kingdom News number 16, we'll find that we are out of them. Well, then we can use magazines the rest of the 10 days when we call on the people. Certainly all of us can put out a few of these tracts somewhere. We can write letters and enclose one, but nothing should stop us from sharing in the field service in some way and to some degree, and also nothing should stop us from turning in a report. Now, we are going to report the number of the tracts that are distributed on our field service report there at the bottom, and we'll show that we put out 100 or whatever the number is, and if we help somebody else, perhaps we will show we put out 150. But that figure of the number of the tracts that we have distributed during September will be reported at the bottom of our field service report. So you see, the congregation's report for the month of September ought to total up to nearly the number of Kingdom News consigned to the congregation for distribution. The individual publishers will report this distribution, and the congregation field overseers are requested to note on their monthly report to the society the total number actually distributed by the congregation and Pioneer. Are we enthusiastic about this work? We appreciate how important this message is for everyone now, and we're going to get behind the work. So let us mark our calendars for September the 21st to the 30th. During this coming month of December, we will do it again with Kingdom News number 17 with another powerful message. The December distribution will take place from December 22nd to the 31st, and everyone is urged to share in it during these 10 days. Let's make it a victory over the world. This, of course, is going to require a lot of tracts, a lot of Kingdom News. And to start with, the Society will supply these new tracts for about 1,300,000 publishers. And we hope to do this by September, or as soon as our brothers hold their conventions, as the conventions are held from place to place. We will not get these tracts out by that time, at least behind the Iron Curtain and in some of the languages, but we'll supply tracts for about 1,300,000 publishers, and think of putting out all these tracts, about 130 million copies in 10 days. Well, can we do it in 10 days? Certainly we can do it in 10 days. If we figure at least 4 people in a home on the average, it should be possible for 500 million people to read this message, and maybe more, and that's 1/7 of the world's population. Then, during the month of December, we can be out again, and maybe we can reach another 1/7 of the world population and work territory. Maybe during December we can work territory that we did not work in September, but if we don't have enough new territory to cover, we'll cover what we have a second time in December. If it be Jehovah's will that we reach all the people in our territory, or as many as we possibly can, throughout Christendom and other parts of the world, it will be our joy. And we want to try to reach as many homes as we can, do we not? It will take time, but we will have it. It will take work. We can do it and gain the victory in this matter over the world, and we'll do that without armed conflict. There's no question about the matter, especially in the light of the report for this past April. Let's review the April report and see what happened then. The number of publishers worldwide, 1,701,091. Number of hours devoted to the field, 29,205,664. Number of pioneers, including special pioneers, temporary and regular pioneers, 138,094. During the month of April, magazines were distributed to the total of 25,582,095. During that month, Jehovah's people, in their ministry, put out the Bible study aids, the bound books, to the total of 1,576,228. And worldwide Bible studies in April totaled 1,266,970 Bible studies. Oh, what a victory over the world, because faith has moved you and has moved our brothers to do this work despite the indifference and despite the opposition of the world. We are caring less and less and are affected less and less by indifference and by opposition, and more by what we know to be the will of Jehovah God. Another thrilling report is that of the memorial this past April. There were 3,883,235 attending worldwide. And of this 3,883,235 attending, 10,483 partook of the memorial emblems. Now here we have, you see, 3,883,000 attending memorial. Now it may be that many of those who attended memorial will want to help distribute the Kingdom News tracts, and if they qualify, encourage them to do so, and that means in your congregations you can get in touch with these people, and if they qualify, give them an opportunity to participate in the distribution of Kingdom News. Maybe we will find that they are going to be not only qualified to distribute Kingdom News, but perhaps they're going to be regular publishers. And if that's the case, if they join us in declaring this good news, we will just print more Kingdom News number 17 and put out a greater number in December. But before the 1974 service year ends, Jehovah willing, we will put out about 500 million of these 4-page tracts. It will be expensive. It will be expensive, but Jehovah has provided the branches. He has provided the printing presses. He has provided the equipment, and he has provided the willing workers to distribute them. So if Jehovah wills, it will be done. Now, we have at the present time 64 high-speed rotary presses scattered around the globe, and many other smaller presses. We are in a position to do things in a hurry, and Jehovah has given us a lot to do. We are now printing millions of copies of the Watchtower and millions of copies of Awake, bound books and Bibles, and now hundreds of millions of copies of Kingdom News number 16 and Kingdom News number 17 and number 18, and who knows now how many. Now we know what is referred to in the Watchtower announcement of our assembly program as the special work. It's very special, and it's just right for us to engage in at this time. We're happy we're so busy, and we love working for God's kingdom. You brothers in the field, going from house to house, are the ones keeping us busy at Bethel, and we're grateful to Jehovah God that we can serve you in some way, and also join with you in this grand work of preaching the good news in the field too. Now, this assembly has already received the greetings of the Bethel family in Brooklyn and the greetings of other Bethel families and the missionary homes elsewhere. And if it should be that you wish to place upon us from Bethel, Brooklyn, the joyful burden of conveying your loving greetings back there, we'll be very glad to do so. We're very, very interested in the field. That's true of all of the Bethel families, the largest one being in New York, divided now between Brooklyn and the Society's adjunct to the headquarters located at Watchtower Farms in New York State, about 100 miles from Brooklyn. And it'll be a joy to convey your greetings to the Bethel family there in both those places. Now, those folks speak the English language, and so do our assemblies yet ahead of us, which will be served by some of us who are here in Houston. I have in mind Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Atlanta, Georgia, and then Brother Henschel will be going to others, and others of us will visit other assemblies, and of course you want your greetings conveyed to them, I am sure, and if so, we'll be very glad to do so. There will be some assemblies abroad in other lands. Of course, we don't speak like those brothers do, and we don't look like those brothers do. That is, those of us from Brooklyn, Bethel. I'm not surprised, of course, if we go to Munich, Germany, as will be the case, other assemblies in Europe, in Rome, and eventually later in the year in Africa. We'll look different from those brothers, and we'll speak differently from those brothers, but I'm getting accustomed to that because I was with a little congregation here in Texas this last Sunday, and I had the privilege of speaking to the little congregation up here at Navasota, and a little boy in the congregation made a comment about me to his daddy. He says, "Pappy, he doesn't look like one of us, and he doesn't talk like one of us." So I asked his daddy to tell his son that we were working on it. We're trying to develop this very agreeable and lovely Texas accent. But we're going to be in places where our brothers will be speaking other languages, but we'll convey your greetings to them as well. I mentioned some countries and also the assemblies in Africa. We have found in our assembly program, having been very impressed with the fact that in order for us to share in Jehovah's victory, the divine victory, we must keep morally clean. What a fine drama to assist us in this. Keep your mind fixed on the things above. The account of David and Bathsheba did give us much to think about, did it not? How necessary it is to keep clean lives and keep our minds fixed on things above. And are we not going to do that even more from now on? We do need to keep our consciences sensitive so that we do not even start down the slippery path to gross sin. And studying the Bible will help us in this. So after hearing that talk on the subject of sowing seeds of good news in a war-plagued world, how glad we were to receive the concordance of the New World Translation in English, and what an aid it will be in finding scriptures for our talks or for our field ministry and to help ourselves and help our brothers. We're very grateful for that concordance. Now, we know about those who have been baptized at this assembly, and on this occasion, in this concluding session, we want to take the opportunity of, again, welcoming those baptized at this assembly, 1,628 new brothers and sisters. The assemblies to which I previously made reference as having already been held have provided us with their baptismal figures too. And so we'll tell you what they seem to be. Detroit, 982. Miami, 578. Chicago, 1,017. Los Angeles English, 965. And Spanish, 439. Pittsburgh, 1,040. Albuquerque, 137. Houston, 1,628, giving us a total for just these few assemblies so far of 6,786 immersed. We made previous reference to the fine report for the month of April. And now in regard to baptisms, the total immersed this service year, the entire service year, up until the end of April, all over the world, was 105,410. That does not include those immersed since the month of April. But if we add to that figure this 6,786 baptized so far at these assemblies, including the 1,628 immersed here in Houston, we have, just in these figures, 112,196 new brothers and sisters. So what a growth in this short period of time, a little more than 8 months, in the number of praisers of Jehovah. Well, maybe this will be the greatest year for baptisms to date. We are also enjoying in our congregations wonderful meeting attendance. These persons all join in our meetings. That's commendable, and we're encouraged here at this assembly to keep this up, this fine meeting attendance. Another high point of our assembly has been the information on the subject of keeping close in mind the presence of the Day of Jehovah. We need this information. We cannot afford to postpone the fiery Day of Jehovah in our minds. It will come suddenly. This assembly will help us to keep awake, and in keeping awake it will help us to keep busy. Now, to this end, we have the new book, True Peace and Security. From what source? So read it carefully. It's a fine book to read and discuss with your family during the next few months. It relates to our own lives and what Jehovah requires of us if we want life in his new order. It's also written in a down-to-earth, understandable way for the public. It discusses the problems that are on their minds, and it can help anyone who is honest-hearted to realize that only by God's kingdom can they gain true peace and security. Well, this is a book to use freely in the field service. Always carry copies with you, and feel free to offer it at any time for a contribution of 25 cents. You'll find this book very helpful in your Bible study activity. If you have studied the Truth Book and you still need to help people straighten out morally, this book will help them do that. This will help them to get straightened out morally. And in many cases, you might want to study this book first. It's excellent for such use. In this connection, too, that is, in considering our distribution of the book True Peace and Security, from what source, we keep in mind the fact that the time left for people to take their stand on Jehovah's side is short. When we find any who show a love of God's righteousness, now is the time to exert ourselves, working night and day to help them become disciples. And all of you who are preaching from house to house and sharing in disciple-making can expect results these days. The baptisms figures show that. If any are able to go into the pioneer work, we urge them to do so, making full use of the remaining time. Our minds go back to the drama that we've had on our program here, too. Shout, for Jehovah has given you the city. And what a marvelous description of the fall of Jericho, the faithfulness of Rahab in aiding her household and deliverance by Jehovah. Did it stir us to action? And do we not feel the urgency of the times even more as we're assisted by this drama? Now, we want to save not only ourselves, but others also. The young ones in our family, our wives, our husbands, our children, our relatives, our neighbors, anyone who will be willing to walk in Jehovah's way. How did the drama, The Zeal of Your House Will Eat Me Up, affect us? This dramatization of events in the life of Jesus Christ went rapidly, and what we saw should certainly stimulate us all to be workers in the field preaching. So, just from the standpoint of this drama, have we been moved to put in more time preaching? as was stressed in the parable of the minas? Are we giving the deserved attention to the interests of earth's new king? We cannot afford to hold back. What a thought-provoking resolution was adopted. Remember, all of us said aye to that resolution. Those of us who are dedicated and many who have not been baptized said aye to that resolution. And in doing so, they agreed to devote themselves to promoting the interests of earth's new king. And this really means making disciples of more people, helping them to get out of Babylon the Great and take their stand on Jehovah's side. So do not Jesus' words loom up in our hearts and minds. Go make disciples of people of all nations. Then we got that new book, God's Kingdom of 1,000 Years Has Approached. The very title of it is stirring, is it not? Well, now, during November and December, we will cover the material in this book in a series of special public talks. As of December 1st, we will begin to study it at all of our congregation book studies. So, of course, now that gives us something to do in our congregations. We need to figure out how many pages of the Paradise Theocracy book we must cover each week in order to finish this book by then, that is, by the last week in November, so that as of December 1st, we can begin to study the new book, God's Kingdom of 1,000 Years Has Approached, in all of our congregation book studies. Probably some of you have read way into the new book by now, and you found it stirring, and you may wish you had more copies you could take home to place with those persons with whom you are already carrying on Bible studies. Now, further regarding this new book, God's Kingdom of 1,000 Years Has Approached, we're going to give it a good distribution in November in English and German-speaking countries. We hope to have all the congregations in North America and Europe supplied with copies in English and German, and we will fill congregation orders beginning in August 1973. The new Kingdom News folder, the millions upon millions that we're going to put out in September, will be advertising this new book, God's Kingdom of 1,000 Years Has Approached. Probably thousands of persons will write into the society asking for a copy, or they may even come to your Kingdom Hall requesting it. So carry it with you all the time. As someone may ask you for it, invite them to the congregation book study and to the Kingdom Hall lecture series. We'll have to be alert and active to keep up with all the things that are going to happen during the rest of this year, 1973, and the work that we have to do in 1974. And this is no time to slow down. We have prospects of youth and health, and let's help dying mankind to get these same wonderful prospects. Of course, today's program is very fresh in our minds. What fine speeches there were on prayer, cultivating intense love, preparing for Satan's attack. In respect to intense love, there have been innumerable examples of it in operation. One was brought to my attention Friday evening. A brother was looking for a crowbar, and he got to the installation department and procured one. And his problem was that morning on the way to the assembly, he had been involved in a traffic accident. He had been hit from the rear, and his trunk could not be opened because of the damage. But he didn't want to miss the morning session, so he came on and didn't do anything about the trunk. But when he went to his car in the driving rain, he found out he had a flat tire, and then he began looking for this crowbar to get his trunk open to get a replacement for his flat tire. So he went back to his car in the rain, and he found out that somebody else had gotten his trunk open and had changed his tire. He no longer had a flat tire, and he brought the crowbar back to the installation department and explained what had happened. So he arrived with a crowbar. He found he didn't need it because some other brother had come along and seen that he had a flat tire, and in the rain he changed it for him. We had this very fine material on the matter of storing up treasures in heaven. The title of this talk this morning was a question: have you stopped storing up treasures on earth? If we stop storing up treasures on earth, we have to be busy at something else. And that means storing up treasure in heaven and doing work, kingdom work, discipling work, preaching work, getting into this worldwide distribution of Kingdom News number 16 when that time comes, putting out in November the new book, God's Kingdom of 1,000 Years Has Approached, and then the smaller book later on in December when we will be working with the Bible and using this 25-cent book, True Peace and Security, from what source, with the Bible on a contribution of $1.25. And the True Peace and Security book will be in 10 languages by that time: English, Spanish, German, Danish, Swedish, Finnish, Dutch, Italian, French, and Portuguese. It is going to give all the Society's factories a lot to do between now and November and December to get these out in sufficient quantities for all of the hard workers in the field, but Jehovah will help us, and we'll be at it day and night if necessary. If you do not have these bound books at the time, you can use anything else to help the people study the Word of God. But if you get your orders in sometime in August, we will ship you something to work with. What a marvelous public talk. Divine victory, its meaning for distressed humanity, which Brother Milton Henschel delivered to us in such a splendid way. We are certainly headed for divine victory, and everything at this convention has pointed toward it. And we're going to go back home now more determined than ever to preach. We're going to keep ourselves busy in this marvelous activity because all of this activity points to divine victory for Jehovah's name and His Word and for His faithful people on the earth. So we must acknowledge gratefully to Jehovah what a grand international assembly this has been. It's been a feast of fat things, to use a scriptural term. Jehovah has put these on our table for 5 days, but this isn't all. We can go back home with these things and keep on studying and enjoying them. And look to the watchtowers during the coming months to bring us a lot more of this information. Keep studying it. Keep getting to the meetings for the congregation studies. We need to take care of ourselves spiritually and also to keep well physically so we can do our spiritual work of comforting those that mourn, who are spiritually sick, who are spiritually lame and need spiritual comfort. If it be Jehovah's will for us to gather again in assemblies during 1974, the Society will plan and announce in due course small assemblies scattered throughout all parts of the world so that it will be a convenience for us to get together in a 4-day assembly, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with morning and afternoon meetings. Did you enjoy having the sessions at this assembly during... Well, that is certainly fine. It does seem that the morning and afternoon hours for our assembly sessions has worked out very well. And this assembly, as with the others that have been held, appears to be enthusiastic for that fine alteration in the program hours. We do want to say, too, to all of you, that we appreciate your coming. And also we are very grateful to you, brothers and sisters, for making contribution for an assembly travel fund, which make it possible to return the missionaries from faraway places to their own homes, wherever these homes may be on earth, for a short season, and to be at these assemblies with us. And we have enjoyed having all of our visitors here with us in Houston from faraway places. It's been wonderful to have Yes, I agree. It has been wonderful to have these missionaries and other people from other lands join in this international assembly. And we have already taken action to send with them our love to their home countries and their home congregations, their home branches and missionary homes. Now, the other evening, Friday, the missionaries who are present here, we have 50 with us from many countries, had a meeting, and at that time I told them just a little bit about a problem we have in connection with the Society's headquarters properties in New York State, in the New York City and also at Watchtower Farms. And this is a real estate tax problem, and we are dealing with it, and it's not settled yet. But I have something more to say just to these missionaries to whom I made the comments previously. I just received a letter from dear brother George Hartman, a brother in the truth, a fine brother, and the Society's attorney handling the legal end of this tax controversy. And he writes this letter. He says, Dear Grant, I thought you would be interested to know that I talked with the chairman of the Board of Assessors today and have been advised that upon the recommendation of the town board, the Board of Review has taken Watchtower Farms off the tax rolls again for this year. He said that written notice would be going out in the next day or so. Apparently the town board met the day after we were up there and made their decision in our favor. I thought this would add to the joy of your trip. Best regards. Well, it does, and I thought it might add to the joy of the missionaries as well as the rest of us. It doesn't mean the thing's settled, but it means that all the steps that have been taken so far over the past more than 2 years in New York City and upstate by the Society have been blessed by Jehovah so far, and we are at this point in a very good position. We should be tax exempt because under the law, religious organizations are as to property which they use for religious purposes, and therefore under the law we qualify. This assembly also does express its sincere thanks to all of you volunteer workers that keep these assemblies moving so well. We're all grateful for your labors of love. You've made this beautiful platform. You've played the beautiful music. You operated the television arrangement and the sound arrangement so skillfully. You cleaned the place up. You've kept it clean. You've kept our washroom clean. You've fed us. You've worked hard and long, and we're very grateful. And after all the things we've been told at this assembly, no doubt at our next great assembly, more of us will join you, too, as volunteer workers in the assembly organization. But for now, we say thank you very, very much. And we appreciate the hospitality of the people of this city in having many of the delegates to our convention cared for in their private homes. And to them we say thank you very much. We are also grateful to the city and to its officials. And we are grateful to the businessmen for their fine cooperation with our assembly organization. We appreciate their many kindnesses. We have been well received by owners and managers of hotels and motels, also by the University of Houston, which provided 647 beds, which was very helpful to us, and we are appreciative of these things. Our assembly rooming service reports the comments from a motel manager, and I quote the way these words were given to me. The motel manager speaking, "I certainly will give you my rooms, and I'll tell you why. I had some of Jehovah's Witnesses stay with me last year, and one day in the mail there came a little package. There was about 40 cents worth of postage on it. So I opened it up, and it was a washcloth one of your people had carried away from the motel. She was from Ohio and sent it all the way back down here and paid all that postage, which was twice as much as what the washcloth was worth. Well, that certainly speaks real high for your group, the honesty that they have." It's the end of the quotation. We are grateful to Jehovah's visible organization for all of the spiritual food which has been provided. It has been rich. And we must acknowledge our gratitude to all of those brothers and sisters who have participated in our behalf from the platform. This assembly is grateful to all of the Bethel families and branch offices that have worked so diligently in getting these many releases prepared and printed and put into our hands for further field service activity, and we want to thank you too. And above all, we want to express our gratitude to Jehovah God for his directing and putting it in the minds of his faithful servants to do these things and to give us an opportunity to magnify his name and glorify it in the earth. In the words of Micah chapter 4, verse 5, "We, for our part, shall walk in the name of Jehovah our God to time indefinite, even forever." We are grateful to Jehovah God for this Divine Victory International Assembly of Jehovah's Witnesses. And we give him the thanks and the praise for all the good things he has bestowed upon us. Jehovah's blessing go with all of you.